All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hope all of you guys are having a great week so far. The NBA season is in full swing now. We had a little bit of a teaser last night with 2 games, but it seemed like everybody was playing tonight. We're going to be hitting the 2 ESPN games in tonight's show, and they're going to be hitting some of the League Pass games tomorrow morning. So we're going to be breaking down Victor Wembanyama's debut. That was spoiled by Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving out executing the young Spurs down the stretch. And then the Boston Celtics with an impressive late come-from-behind victory to spoil an excellent opening night effort from the New York Knicks. And then I've got 4 mailbag questions for the end of the show as well. One of them is related to the Lakers. I rewatched that game this morning and have some notes on the Lakers and some stuff that I noticed on film for the end of the show as well. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, this is our brand new YouTube channel. For those of you guys who didn't know yet, it would mean a lot to me if you guys would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget about our social media feeds on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, where I'm posting video content over the course of the year, as well as show announcements. Our podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. And last but not least, I need more mailbag questions, so keep dropping those in the YouTube comments. All right, let's talk some basketball. So for those of you guys who remember our season predictions episode that we did on over the weekend, I think we released it on Sunday morning, if I remember correctly. But if you guys remember, at the very end of the contenders breakdown, I gave like the top 6 teams and their kind of percentage breakdown, and then I listed the 2 or 3 teams that I viewed as somewhat long shots. But then I included one super long shot, and it was the Dallas Mavericks, which is seemingly insane, right? And I gave them exactly a 1% chance, if you guys remember, those of you guys who listened to that episode. And here's the reason why. Because I view that there are specific things that you absolutely have to have in order to win a championship. This is just my opinion. And one of those things is elite, high-end shot creation. And so there are teams that are better basketball teams than the Dallas Mavericks that I don't think have any chance to win the title. I'll give you an example, like the New Orleans Pelicans, right? A lot of exciting young players, a lot of guys I really like. Zion was fantastic tonight. They win a game. They have shooting and defense and ball handling and all the things that you would think, right? But they're a little young, and I don't think they have that elite top-tier shot creation that they need to kind of get over that hump at this point. Because again, as we look back through NBA history, the team that wins the title always has that guy. It's Nikola Jokic, right? It's Steph Curry the year before that, right? It's Giannis Antetokounmpo the year before that. And again, even though they didn't have that elite top-tier shot creation, they were a veteran team with grown-ass men and a bona fide top-tier superstar at the top of the team, right? We go back to the 2020 Lakers. It's LeBron James, top-tier half-court shot creator. Kawhi before that, Steph and KD. We can go on in perpetuity. You need that. That is an absolute must unless you were unbelievably great at everything else, like the 2021 Bucks were, right? And so as a result of that, like if you've got Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic on your team, if you can keep games close, you have a really good chance to win at the end, because it's just really hard to out-execute a team with Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving on the floor at the same time down the stretch of a basketball game. And again, like I said, it's a 1% chance because there are a lot of teams that have that and are better, right? But the reason I gave them that 1% chance is specifically because of this dynamic. They are just damn near impossible to guard down the stretch of a game when things slow down, when the physicality increases, when teams start switching actions, when, game plan takes a higher priority over the course of what's happening. Again, like the officiating changes, it's more physical, it's tense, it's stressful, all the decision-making rises to the surface. All these different things prioritize half-court shot creation. Luka Doncic had 10 points in the fourth quarter. There was that big and one against Keldon Johnson on the left side of the rim. And this is just an example of how far ahead Luka is thinking the game compared to the defense. He's in pick and roll. Keldon Johnson is chasing him in back pressure. Now, we talk about this concept a lot, and it's going to be something we talk about when we get to the Celtics later on as well. But in a situation where a guard is chasing over the top of a screen in pick and roll, his job is to apply what's called back pressure, right? He's trying to funnel the ball handler towards the rim protection. Luka knows he's coming. And Keldon had been a little bit out of control in the previous possessions, and you can literally see Luka look back, identify that Keldon's trailing him, and slow himself down, and then literally pause before he took his shot because he knew Keldon was running too fast and he knew he was going to run into him. That's thinking the game. down the stretch. Like I said, it's not just about the skill set, the ball handling, the shooting, all those different things. It is thinking the game. It is a decision-making sport when you get into the final minutes. Even at the end there, when he gets the switch against Devin Vassell, it's a switch, doesn't have an opportunity to get downhill. It's late in the shot clock, opts for the step back three in that situation and knocks it down. Then he had the 2 huge feeds to Kyrie down the stretch for threes. I thought it was a magnificent fourth quarter performance from Luka Doncic. Kyrie Irving was awesome. He hit that and one floater on the right side, the bank shot early in the fourth, and then he had that step back jump shot, that little crossover pull-up jump shot that he hit on the right wing, and then he hit the 2 big pull-up threes. And that's the thing. Like they can struggle defensively. They can struggle with rebounding. But as long as they can keep it close, and I mean like just close enough, they can out-execute you down the stretch of the game the way that they did. Now, here's the thing. What is the necessity for this roster in order to keep games close enough so that Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic can put you over the top? What did I say all summer? They needed front court players that could be a threat offensively, but also compete on the glass and on the defensive end of the floor. And Grant Williams and Derek Lively were the heroes on that end of the floor tonight. I want to break them both down here for a minute. So Grant Williams, kind of became the butt of a lot of jokes in Boston last year. And we're going to talk about this when we get to Boston. But one of the things that happens when you have a team that has a shit ton of talent, guys get squeezed in the sense that the skills that they bring to the table are no longer important with that particular team because they have other guys. And so they kind of sink down to the end of the rotation, which directly affects the amount of minutes that they play, which directly affects their rhythm and their confidence when they're on the floor. And so then the easy decision there is to be like, oh, they're bad, right? As a fan, you think, okay, look, Grant Williams is when he is on the floor, he's not playing as well as he usually does. But what's actually happening in that case is Grant is actually stuck in a situation where he's not as needed, and so he's out of rhythm all the damn time. And that can manifest all over your game on both ends of the floor. If you're not in rhythm, you don't feel confident. If you don't feel confident, you're not as dialed in on all of the details. Confidence is literally like a life force that drives you on the basketball court, right? And so you slot him in a situation in Dallas where they desperately need everything that he brings to the table. His ability to guard players that are taller than him because he's low and got a center of gravity. He did an awesome job defending Victor Wembanyama on just about every isolation possession in this game. And again, the key to guarding a bigger player that can shoot over the top is disrupt the base, attack the shooting pocket. Every single time in those possessions, he's pushing and leaning on Victor Wembanyama down low, and when he's going for his gather for the jump shot, he's swiping down at the basketball trying to disrupt that energy transfer. He actually forced Victor into a pretty tough air ball at the foul line down the stretch, and kind of dissuaded him from shooting several other times during the game for that reason. But in addition to that, you need a guy who can reliably knock down corner three-point shots. Like he knocked down a huge corner three down the stretch of this game, right? And then when that kind of feeds into the confidence, that's when you see the next level parts of his game, right? Like he took a transition pull-up three in the fourth quarter and stuck that thing. That's a shot that he probably doesn't have the confidence to take last year in Boston with the way that his role had changed. You're scared you're going to get pulled out of the game, right? No, this is Grant Williams' spot. That 4 spot is his. He is the best player to play that position on this team. It gives him the confidence and the margin for error to trust himself to take those kinds of shots. And that was a gigantic shot in that game. I thought Grant Williams, I mean, again, like in order for this all to manifest and go right for the Mavs, they need to hit on a bunch of these key signings and draft picks, right? I thought the Grant Williams signing, again, sign and trade, I should say, that one game, again, one small sample size, but I thought you saw a great example of how he can help this team win basketball games in that comeback over the Spurs. Derek Lively. Now, this is where I got to eat some crow because I said in the preseason, like, I just don't understand why you go with a rookie. And they were playing Olivier Maxence Prosper in preseason as well next to him. And I'm like, what are they doing playing these like rookies next to their stars? This doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you've got Maxi Kleber, you've got Dwight Powell, you've got like veterans, like lean on your veterans, right? That was my thought process in that specific situation. Like, oh, let Derek Lively come off the bench. I just couldn't have been more wrong. Because, like, this kid's just ready. And it really comes down to just a handful of specific things. Excellent physical tools, which most young, talented basketball players have, right? That's usually not the issue for them. He has that, but so many other young bigs, and not just bigs, but other position groups as well, struggle in the other areas, and it makes it so their physical advantages are limited in the way they impact the game, and it keeps them off the floor in most cases, right? But what do you need from that position? Let's call that position a rim runner and a rim protector, right? So on one end of the floor on offense, he's screening and diving hard to the basket relentlessly, right? And then on the defensive end of the floor, he's operating in drop coverage and protecting the rim. And then obviously there's crashing the offensive glass, securing defensive rebounds. There's obviously more complications to that, but that's that archetype of player. What do you need from him? You need him to play freaking hard all the time. And it involves a ton of running. It involves sprinting up and down the floor in transition on both ends, running the rim on offense, and getting back to the rim in transition defense. It requires running up and down in pick and roll. You're going to start underneath the basket. Luka's going to call you up to set a screen. You got to sprint up and go set a solid screen. And then you have to sprint hard back to the rim to apply that rim pressure at a roll gravity and the vertical spacing that you need from a pick and roll threat, right? But what if it doesn't work? Then you might have to turn around and go run back up and set another screen. It's an exhausting job. It is a dirty work position. It is one that is often devoid of glamour and is at the same time monumentally important to the success of a basketball team. And I thought Derek Lively did just an incredible job in this game, but it does require one other trait that a lot of other big guys struggle with. You have to be able to catch, you have to be able to finish, you have to be able to make reads, right? That's that offensive skill set piece. And it seemed as though Derek Lively caught every damn lob and flushed it easily, including that really tough contested one that kind of rattled in and down on that. It kind of reminded me of some of the vintage DeAndre Jordan dunks with Chris Paul, right? But there was also a play where he caught on the short roll in the second half and made a really nice rifle feed to the right wing for a shot. I don't know how many lob dunks he caught in this game. It seemed like it was 4 or 5 of them. He was super valuable as that vertical spacing threat. Grabbed a huge offensive... That offensive rebound putback where he just came in flying was one of the most shocking plays that I can remember seeing in a long time, in the sense that like I'm watching the game and then I just see a human being that's gigantic just go flying through the air when no one sees him coming and just dunking the ball and then falling into camera row. But then again, that's the motor. You have to have the motor. You have to have the physical tools, and you have to have the IQ and the skill to round it all out. And Derek Lively has all that stuff. And this is a rookie. I mean, that was about as impressive a rookie rim running, shot blocking performance as you will see in the NBA. 16 points and 10 rebounds, and was plus 20 in the game. Can't do much better than that. Very, very impressed by Derek Lively. A good first performance for the Mavs. They got a long way to go. They got some things they got to figure out, but I think you can kind of see the formula. Their long shot puncher's chance formula, like just quality role players in the front court, and then Luka and Kyrie bringing you home in the crunch every game. Moving on to the Spurs, Victor Wembanyama. Talk about turning around what was a pretty disappointing first NBA performance. I don't think people realize how insane it is to be in foul trouble, entirely out of rhythm, to be kind of playing like shit. And we'll talk about it in a minute because he was playing like shit through 3 quarters. But to have all that happening and then to come in the fourth quarter against Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, guns blazing with a smile on your face, hitting pull-up jump shots in people's face, and damn near stealing the game. Like, I don't think people realize how insane that is. You understand the confidence that it takes to have things be going as poorly as they were going for 3 quarters, and then to come out and be like, I'm about to steal this damn game. It was unbelievable. And I think it comes down to the fact that he's been playing pro for years. It's a big thing that I think, as so many people were like, oh, Victor's going to struggle when he gets to the NBA. He's going to struggle when he gets to the NBA. It's like, dude, this dude's a pro already. This is not a dude who is playing in the Big Sky Conference or the Pac-12. This is a guy who legitimately was playing in his professional league's championship series last year. Playing against grown-ass men. Dealing with big, physical European bigs. That's what this guy's been dealing with. This is a super confident dude. He's played in huge games. He's had pressure on him forever. And so he's not uncomfortable in any situation, including a situation where he's not having a great game. And again, it was a really poor game through 3 quarters. Every time you see a player in foul trouble, it's easy to kind of like hyper-focus on the bad calls, right? Like even his first foul. He's kind of sliding over and help. I think it was Grant Williams who caught and was going towards the rim. It's like, I don't like that call. He's vertical, he's sliding, it's a physical game. That shouldn't have been a foul. But then there were some just straight up poor decisions on his part. That Josh Green transition drive in the first half where he's kind of driving underneath the basket along the baseline, and Victor just, instead of letting him go through, just decides to essentially trip him with a kind of a slide step towards the baseline. Like, that's just inexperience at the NBA level and just making a poor decision, right? That illegal screen in the third quarter. Jeremy Sochan's bringing the ball up the right wing, and he just like straight up like runs up to 25 feet and throws a block, right? And again, like, even though Jeremy Sochan's a little bit helter-skelter as a ball handler and probably should have slowed down and waited for Victor to get set, at the same time, like, when you're in foul trouble and Jeremy Sochan's running up, you better be damn sure that you're in position to set a screen before you hold your ground the way that he did, right? But it wasn't just the foul trouble. He also wasn't very good on defense in this game. Like, he was making poor help and recover decisions. He was leaving shooters that he shouldn't have left, and then he was kind of like staying home on shooters when he probably could have offered help at the rim. I didn't think he was playing a great game. I don't blame him for the offensive end of the floor. The Spurs ball handlers were all caught up in the kind of like the energy of the game, and a lot of guys were making bad decisions, particularly Keldon Johnson and Jeremy Sochan. Just way too much dribbling and decision-making from them, and looking guys off and over-penetrating into the paint, turning the basketball over. Keldon Johnson in particular, the over-penetrating is an issue. And again, over-penetrating is a really simple concept. Pretend the camera is the rim protector. As soon as I have you engaged to the point where I know I don't have a good look at the rim, as soon as I have you engaged, meaning like you're watching me and you have left your man, make the pass. It's when you keep driving into the teeth of the defense that people can start putting their hands on you, and that's when you're going to start turning the ball over, because it's impossible to see everything that's happening in that scrum. And there's a lot of contact that happens on every single possession that goes uncalled. And when you drive into the teeth of the defense and over-penetrate, even if you draw more help and get the defender closer to you, it's actually harder to make the proper kick-out passes. And Keldon Johnson has got to kind of figure out that kind of sweet spot on his drives where he can identify the help is coming and make that read early so that he can actually be free with his arms to make that pass while still getting his teammate the opportunity to make the shot. But yeah, like, I don't want to blame Victor for his kind of unimpressive first three quarters offensively, because his teammates weren't doing him any favors. But for him to bounce back from all that and to come in that fourth quarter and hit a hesitation pull-up three, a jab step pull-up jump shot. He had a lob dunk and pick and roll. He had a nice finish through contact out of the dunker spot in transition. I thought it was an incredibly impressive fourth quarter from Victor Wembanyama. Last guy I wanted to shout out on the Spurs was Devin Vassell. He had 23 points on 17 shots in this game. His like fluidity in pull-up jump shot game, the lift that he gets, his energy transfer from feet through his release, it reminds me a lot of Devin Booker. And that's really, really exciting, because this dude has turned into a pretty high-level shot maker. He's actually like a little taller and a little longer than Devin Booker as well. And I just think that he could theoretically be the perfect complementary ball handler with Victor Wembanyama. Because again, if you want to have a guy that can be a true vertical spacer and pick and roll, ideally you want to have a great pull-up shooter, which forces the screen defender to come up to the level of the screen, which opens up things in the short roll. It's what we've been talking about all summer or I shouldn't say all summer, but all preseason with Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo. You need a legit pull-up jump shooter. I really like that fit there. To me, Keldon Johnson kind of feels like the odd man out right now. He's just a little too helter-skelter. And as much as I like Jeremy Sochan, and he had some good defensive possessions on Luka Doncic in this game, I just don't understand why they're having him handle the ball as much as they have let him do so. But again, I think considering the circumstances for Victor in this game, I still think the Spurs are going to be pretty damn competitive this year, because when he's on the floor, he can do a lot of things on both ends of the floor. NBA fans, the wait is over. Basketball is back, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is celebrating with an unbeatable offer. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets for throwing down $5 on the NBA. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. You'll start the season with an instant dub. And with DraftKings parlays, everyone's got a shot at an even bigger basketball win. String together multiple bets from the same game or build your parlay across multiple games for a shot at making your payday even sweeter. Basketball's more fun when you're in on the action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code HOOPS. That's HOOPS. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets instantly for betting just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code HOOPS. The crown is yours.
For a limited time, Verizon customers can get Netflix and NFL Plus for just $25 a month. It's called Plus Play. That's $120 in annual savings. Plus Play is a platform where Verizon customers can shop, manage, and save on the subscriptions that you already love, right? Like Netflix and NFL Plus. With NFL Plus Premium, you get access to live games on mobile, my fave, NFL Red Zone, NFL Network, and more. Just go to Verizon.com/plusplay. Verizon.com/plusplay to save on Netflix and NFL Plus today for a limited time only now. Limited time only.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. Getting car parts can be a huge pain. I had a wild experience last year where I busted the side view mirror on my truck. And I thought, this is a problem I can solve, right? So I went online and I found a website that sold car parts. And I found this mirror that looked identical to the one I had. I ordered it. It shipped. I got on YouTube and I looked up how to disassemble my door and attach the mirror properly. Go through all the steps. Everything's perfect. Problem solved, right? No, because I wake up the next day and I get in my car to go to the gym and literally the air conditioner's not working. And I live in Tucson, Arizona, so it's like a catastrophe when your AC's not working because it's like you're driving around in an oven, right? So I stop everything and I take it to the dealership. I pay a super expensive diagnostic fee for them to figure out what's going on. The guy comes back to me and he's like, you got the wrong mirror on your truck. The mirror you're supposed to have is supposed to have this little thermometer on it, which is supposed to tell the computer of the truck whether or not it can afford to run the AC without overheating, some super complicated thing like that. By the time I actually got the right mirror on, I'd spent over $1,000 to get my perfectly normal air conditioner to start working again. And eBay Motors is here to make that problem go away. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, side mirrors, roof racks, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right, moving on to the Celtics and the Knicks. So I want to kind of start with the late game run. So the Knicks go up by 6 on that Quentin Grimes 3 in the left corner where he gets fouled by Jaylen Brown. It's about 4 minutes left. And on the very next possession, the Celtics run a horn set. Derek White comes off the left side. And Emmanuel quickly gets called for an absolutely bogus blocking foul, one I completely don't agree with. Excuse me. Jumps completely vertical, takes a contact in the chest, doesn't bring his arms down, he's barely moving side to side, which again, there's a reason why they give offensive foul calls when a defender's sliding, but the contact goes through the chest. You are, as a defender, allowed to move your feet. You don't have to be completely set in order to play defense. You can be a defender in motion. I didn't think it was a good call. But anyway, so he goes to the line, he makes both free throws. Down the floor next time, Jalen Brunson hits a nice floater over Kristaps Porzingis in pick and roll. Then the Celtics go back to the post on Jayson Tatum, or with Jayson Tatum on the right block. And this is kind of an example of the type of shot creation I'd really like to see Jayson Tatum do a lot more in the future. So he gets Jalen Brunson on a switch, posts him up on the right block. Jrue Holiday makes the post entry and kind of runs through, right? But he identifies that the double team is coming, and he just kind of repositions himself directly under the rim. Tatum hits him with a bounce pass. Jrue Holiday makes a layup. Really smart cut from Jrue Holiday, and I love the idea of Jayson Tatum working more out of the post. He did a lot of work out of the post in this particular game. It's something I'd like to see him do a lot more over the course of this season. So then we go down to the other end of the floor. It's a 4-point game. And this is just another unbelievable play from Jrue Holiday. So Jalen Brunson's dribbling the ball at the top of the key. Okay. Jrue Holiday is guarding Julius Randle in the right corner. Jrue Holiday kind of like ignores Julius and kind of goes up into somewhat of a soft double. It's not really a double because he's still like 15 feet away from Brunson, but he comes out all the way almost to the above the break line, right? And so Jalen Brunson makes the right read. He throws the over the top pass to Julius Randle. Jrue Holiday throws a hard closeout to chase Julius Randle off the line. Julius Randle rips to the right. And then Jrue Holiday literally recovers and beats him to the right and swipes the ball away from Julius Randle. Just an unbelievable defensive play. Then absolute chaos happens, right? Because after Jrue Holiday gets the steal, Isaiah Hartenstein pokes the ball away from behind from Jrue. In the chaos, Quentin Grimes gets a wide open three on the left wing and misses it. On the play, Isaiah Hartenstein gets another offensive rebound and taps the ball to Julius Randle under the basket, just like ready for a putback layup. But Julius Randle's not paying attention until it's too late, fumbles it away. They go down to the other end. In the transition cross match, Quentin Grimes gets Kristaps Porzingis, and he pulls Kristaps to the ground. He gets fouled, goes to the line. Now it's only a 2-point game. So then we go down the floor. Really solid Celtics defensive possession. Lots of switching. They forced RJ Barrett into a step back three. He misses it, and Isaiah Hartenstein fouls. This was the elbow play from Porzingis. Porzingis goes to the free throw line, makes 2 free throws, and ties the game. So then we get to a very important sequence. We run another Brunson-Porzingis pick and roll. And if you guys remember earlier in the sequence, like I said, Jalen Brunson came off of that pick and roll and made the floater over Kristaps Porzingis in a drop coverage. So on this play, the Celtics opt for a switch instead. And this is the big question with Porzingis. We know he can be a more than adequate rim protector in drop coverage, but how is he on the perimeter? Can he contain on the perimeter? And so he gets a switch onto Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson hits him with a freaking nasty right to left crossover and actually beats him off the dribble. And again, like you want to be like, okay, Porzingis technically getting beat off the dribble, but like that move would have busted most of the bigs in the league. Wouldn't be surprised if he even beat an Antony Davis off the dribble with that move. Like it was a really nasty move, but Porzingis did his job. After he gets beat, he just kind of pursues from behind and tries to offer a contest. Jayson Tatum kind of slides over like he's going to help, but you can tell on the move, Jalen Brunson had exerted so much energy on that crossover move, he kind of had to stop short on the layup. He takes a left-handed layup off the glass and he leaves it long and misses it. So and again, if you look at the play, Porzingis is offering a little bit of back pressure from behind. I think that's good switch defense. Like if you watch it, Tatum technically is stepping over into help, but I don't think he really was in position to make a play. I think Jalen Brunson was getting in his rearview mirror a little bit and seeing Porzingis coming and changed his footwork a little bit, worried he was going to get pursued at the glass and stopped short to try to shoot early. So really nice switch defense from Porzingis to get the stop. Then we get the Jayson Tatum Porzingis pick and pop. Now, pick and pops are like one of the hardest plays to guard in the NBA. And we're going to get to that in a minute because I want to dive a little bit more into Porzingis' overall impact on the offensive end. But they run a pick and pop. Porzingis pops to the right wing, 25 feet from the basket. Tatum hits him in the shooting pocket, and he knocks down literally a semi-contested 25-foot three on the move. It was just an unbelievable shot. Effectively ended up being the game winner. It puts the Celtics up 3. They go down the floor. The Knicks set up like they're going to run one of their horn sets, but Porzingis is on Barrett and is kind of sagging too far into the paint. Brunson makes the kick to the corner, and Barrett just misses an open 3. Make or miss league. Porzingis made his, Barrett missed his. So the Celtics are up 3. Porzingis misses a 3 on a kick-out pass. Jrue Holiday grabs an offensive rebound. And then Jayson Tatum turns the ball over. It's kind of a weird sequence where I think Jrue Holiday was being guarded by Julius Randle, and he clears out. But when he clears out, Tatum doesn't see that Randle is actually staying up to double. And then Tatum inexplicably just like drives into Randle and then identifies that Randle's in his way, so he stops. And then that allows RJ Barrett to poke the ball away from behind. Again, Tatum played a great game. We're going to talk about it more in a minute. But like that, it's always a little discouraging because the late game turnovers were an issue for him in the postseason last year as well. But on the foul, Julius Randle, on the turnover, Julius Randle gets the ball and they smartly foul him in the backcourt because it would have been a run-out dunk for RJ Barrett. Randle goes to the line and misses another free throw. So the Celtics are still up by 2. And then on the next possession, Porzingis catches the ball on the right. Tatum's coming off a pick and roll, throws the ball to Porzingis, and Hartenstein has to close out hard. Porzingis, as Tatum was going downhill, you could see Hartenstein kind of step over to the left block to kind of offer a little bit of token help, but he closes out. But because Porzingis is such a good shooter, it's a hard closeout. Because it's a hard closeout, he kind of comes up into his airspace. So when Porzingis did that rip-through move kind of up the short corner, he ended up tripping on Hartenstein's leg, and it's a clear foul. You can see Hartenstein going like, I knew it. I fouled him. But it was a foul. But it's a byproduct of Porzingis' shooting. If he hadn't just made that crazy pick and pop three on the right wing, it's a shorter closeout. And then it probably ends up back in Tatum's hands and you have a better chance to get a stop, right? So like Porzingis just made a ton of huge plays down the stretch of this game. But it wasn't just down the stretch. He was awesome on both ends all night. And this is where I want to dive into the pick and pop concept because it's wide open almost every single time. There's a very specific reason why pick and pop coverages or pick and pop offensive sequences are incredibly difficult to guard. And it all has to do with traditional pick and roll coverage, right? So if I have a guy who sets a really solid screen, a big man who can set a solid screen, it's going to generate separation between my ball handler and the on-ball defender, right? So the on-ball defender's here, ball handler's here. If we set a solid screen, he's going to get downhill and there's going to be separation. If he gets downhill and gets separation, you have to guard him with the screener's man, right? The screen defender has to step up in some way, shape, or form, either waiting at the basket in a deep drop or all the way up to a high drop, right? And everything in between. That screen defender has to be involved. Now, in traditional NBA pick and roll with a non-shooting threat, that screener is rolling hard to the rim. And so a really good athletic rim protecting center has a fighting chance to look to his right and see the ball handler coming downhill, and to look to his left and see the roller coming downhill and kind of split the difference and make a play. Maybe try to bait that lob pass so that he can get back to the lob, or maybe pretend like he's staying with the roll man so that he can contest a shot at the rim. He's got a fighting chance there. But what if instead of rolling hard, he pops to the three-point line? Now you basically have two options. You can either rotate out of the weak side, which is going to leave another guy wide open, right? So let's say Porzingis pops to the top of the key and you just have, Josh Hart or whoever it is on the other side, leave a shooter to go help Porzingis at the top of the key, which leaves a guard shooter wide open, right? Or you can switch the action. Because what you can't do is have the screen defender stay home with Porzingis. Because if he sets a hard screen and pops, and your screen defender follows Porzingis to the three-point line, Jayson Tatum's going downhill for dunks and layups all game long. Your only options are to either switch the action, which would put a small defender on Porzingis and open up a post attack, or put a big, slow defender on Tatum opening up a perimeter attack, or you can rotate from the weak side, which is going to leave a shooter wide open. The pick and pop is infinitely harder to guard than a traditional roll man type of sequence. And what's crazy is Kristaps can roll as well. He did a lot of it in preseason and was successful with it. But that pick and pop is specifically extremely hard to guard. And you'll notice a lot of the best offensive centers in the league kind of operate like that. That's what Jokic does on most of these possessions. He's picking and popping to the top of the keys, pump faking, trying to get Antony Davis to over pursue so he can beat him off the dribble or knocking down those threes, right? Like that, it is the really high level offensive centers in the league that can operate out there and legitimately be a threat. They make your offense so much harder to guard. But it can't just be a Mo Bamba, I occasionally hit an above the break three, right? It can't just be an Anthony Davis, like I occasionally make a play there. You have to be deadly there in order for that sequence to be as difficult to guard as it can be. And Porzingis made 5 damn threes in this game. And the game winner was a pick and pop three. But then we had the improvements on the defensive end of the floor, right? His rim protection was a huge factor in this game. He had 4 blocks, changed a lot of shots, especially down the stretch of the second half. And then he got his biggest stop of the game on a switch with Jalen Brunson and got beat on the possession, but recovered to challenge the shot and force Jalen Brunson to miss a tough layup. He is what makes this team so hard to beat now. 30 points, 8 rebounds, 4 blocks, effectively the game winner. Hard to do much better than Porzingis did in his first game in a Celtics jersey. Drew Holiday made a bunch of huge winning plays in this game. We broke down the huge steal on Julius Randle where he kind of half doubled and then recovered to the baseline and then beat Randle to his right hand and then swiped the ball away. He had 3 blocks in this game, by the way. He had that big offensive rebound late. We talked about the cut that he had on the Jayson Tatum post up with the double team. He's just a winner. And he's constantly going to make massive winning plays because he's constantly made massive winning plays in his career. Like I've said before to Celtics fans, I view him as just a better version of Marcus Smart. And he's going to bring a lot of that to the table just with more consistency. And then lastly, I want to hit Jayson Tatum. Actually, not lastly. I have 2 other Celtics topics before we get to the Knicks. Jayson Tatum looks huge. I think he said in the preseason pressers that he added like 13 pounds of muscle again in this offseason. But you can literally see it. And strength is like incredibly valuable on the basketball court. I have a mailbag question about this later that I want to get to. But being strong, physically strong on the basketball court helps you in a bunch of very specific ways. It helps you fight for position. So when you're trying to get to a spot closer to the basket without the basketball, right? Setting your man up for screens. Let's say you need to walk your man down to the block so you can come off of a wide pin down. Let's say that you're ducking in a mismatch on a switch or whatever it is. You need strength to fight for position. Dealing with contact, when dudes are grabbing on your arms and fouling you, the ability to fight through that contact is related to strength. Getting lift on shots and drives. Again, like strength goes well beyond upper body strength. It's lower body strength as well. The ability after hitting a dramatic dribble combination and absorbing contact to then elevate into a shot that you can make or elevate into a layup or a dunk at the rim with a high probability of finishing. That requires leg strength. And then last but not least, overall physical confidence. This is something that I had I wish I could remember who it was so I can credit this person. But one of my coaches in college used to say, like, lift weights, it'll just make you feel more confident. And it's so true. Because like when I'm actually in a good groove, like when I haven't gone on vacation forever and I'm in a good groove or for like months at a time, I've been lifting 5 days a week. When I go to the basketball court, you just feel good about yourself. You feel strong. You feel big. You feel confident. And like confidence is just such an underrated part of the game of the basketball in general. When you're walking on the court and you feel, looking to the guy next to you, like, I am bigger and stronger than this guy, and he cannot physically hold me. When you're thinking that, it pumps you up with the confidence you need to be confident in every other area of the game, with your decision-making, with your shot-making, so on and so forth, even defensively. Like lifting, that strength is such an important part of NBA basketball, and I think you're starting to see those that specifically pay dividends for Jayson Tatum now at this phase in his career. Had really good variety on his attacks today. He was attacking out of the high post. He was attacking out of the low post. Even with a live dribble, he was looking to be aggressive in the mid-range when he had a chance. Even in his perimeter attacks, he just seems kind of more methodical. Instead of like the classic Jayson Tatum, let me take a 3 or just slash into the rim and throw up some bullshit layup, he was more methodical on his drives to the rim. There was a play against Quentin Grimes in the a live dribble attack in the first half where he kind of caught the ball on the left wing and took like a dribble from the wing down to like 20 feet and then like took one more and it was almost like a 3-point line post up where he just kind of backed Grimes down with 2 dribbles down to like 8 feet and then kind of just turned strong and shot like a little right-handed floater off the glass and he made it. There was a dunk that he had in the second quarter where like it was a slot drive on a kick out pass, a spot up opportunity on the right wing where Grimes was closing out on his left hand and he ripped through to the right. As soon as he ripped through to the right, instead of just driving into Julius Randle and smoking a layup, he saw Randle in front of him. He put Quentin Grimes in jail, kind of pinned him on his backside, waited a second, hit Randle with the crossover. Then when he realized he toasted Randle in the crossover, instead of throwing up some wild left-handed layup, he slowed himself down and pivoted into a right-left takeoff and threw down an easy 2-handed dunk, which again, a leg strength to be able to stop and start and to elevate in traffic, but also just being more patient on his drives. I thought Jayson Tatum looked fantastic in this game. My only gripe would be that late game turnover like we talked about earlier. Got a little uninvolved in the offense, but the Knicks were throwing the kitchen sink at him in that second half, and he made several key reads. That post-up double team to Drew Holiday, the pick and pop to Kristaps Porzingis. I thought it was an incredible performance from Jayson Tatum. You know, I was talking with the Jenkins and Jones guys earlier today about whether or not Jayson Tatum can get MVP. And the thought process was like, yeah, if the Celtics win like 65 games and Jayson Tatum averages like 32, 10, and 7. Why? Because the Celtics have the most talented roster in the league by far, and he's going to need to be beyond fantastic in order to get the award. But I think you saw tonight that like that's certainly on the table. If he's going to score this efficiently, 32 points a game is on the table. And this team is talented enough to win that many games. Jalen Brown, 11 points on 11 shots. This is that concept of diminishing returns that I've talked about a lot. And it's one of the things where I talked about this with the Bradley Beal concept, like the difference between Bradley Beal and a Kentavious Caldwell-Pope on the Wizards versus the difference between a Bradley Beal and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope on the Suns and the specific things that a team needs from you, right? Well, this team has too much ball handling. They have too many guys who can dribble, too many guys who could shoot, too many guys who can create their own shot. And you saw tonight that Derek White and Jaylen Brown ended up being kind of the guys who got squeezed in terms of their overall offensive usage. And like this is the kind of thing that's going to happen. And again, it's not a shot at Jaylen Brown. It's just really hard to play basketball in that type of situation when you don't know where your touches are coming from. And then when suddenly they do start drawing stuff up for you and it's like, hey, Jaylen, we need you to be aggressive 3 or 4 possessions in a row after you just basically spotted up and did nothing for a quarter, right? So like it's just difficult. And I think you're going to see a lot of that this year where like on any given night with the Celtics, you'll see 2 or 3 guys play awesome, and then the other 2 guys kind of struggle. But again, and this is the last thing I'm going to say about the Celtics, as long as they defend, and I thought Jaylen Brown had a good defensive night, as long as they defend, it won't matter. Because those guys are all excellent defensive players as well. And as long as they redirect their resources to the defensive end when they're not involved offensively, they're going to win a lot of games. They looked a lot closer to the defense I saw 2 years ago tonight. Physical ball pressure, good rotations, making teams shoot over their length, making extra efforts to contest shots. I thought it was a really impressive defensive performance as well. Here's the thing. The Knicks threw a hell of a punch, and they survived it. So that's it. That's an impressive win. On the Knicks front, I genuinely feel bad for them because between the bad call on the Derek White drive where I thought quickly was vertical, Quentin Grimes missing that wide open 3 on the left wing, Isaiah Hartenstein tapping that ball to Julius Randle underneath the basket that he should have caught and dunked. Jalen Brunson missing that left-handed layup, even though it was pretty well defended from Kristaps Porzingis. You expect Jalen Brunson to make that shot. And then all of the missed free throws, especially timely missed free throws in the second half. It definitely feels like the Knicks let this game slip away. Again, there's almost doesn't count in the NBA. It's still a loss, but I do kind of feel bad for them because they played well enough to win. A lot of things that they needed to go their way down the stretch did not go their way. But there is a lot to be encouraged about, right? Because Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle both played really poorly on the offensive end. Jalen Brunson seemed to miss every single one of his little pull-up jump shots and floaters that he usually makes about half of, right? So a rough night there. Julius Randle was doing a lot of that over-penetrating that we always talk about, trying to play bully ball, but he just didn't quite have the lift that he usually does. Both Randle and Brunson, neither of them really played a lot in preseason, and they both kind of seemed a little bit out of shape, so I wouldn't read too much into that. Emmanuel Quickley was amazing, generating downhill pressure, hitting pull-up jump shots, hit some huge pull-up threes in the fourth quarter. Solid point of attack defense as well. Hard to beat that off the bench from a guard to get legitimate downhill pressure, legitimate pull-up shooting, legitimate point of attack defense. It's hard to beat that. Hit a huge floater off the glass down the stretch as well. Really nice game from Emmanuel Quickley. At 24 points on 11 shots. And then they have 2 excellent options at center. Like I've talked about this all summer, but Mitchell Robinson was the reason they beat Cleveland. He just utterly obliterated the Cavs front court players, Mobley and Allen. But then, he can sit the bench down the stretch of a key game against the Celtics because Isaiah Hartenstein's making huge plays on both ends of the floor, right? And it's a real luxury there. And then I thought it was a really classic Tom Thibodeau, New York Knicks defensive effort. Super physical at the point of attack. They rotated well. They were making those extra efforts. That was not an easy team to guard in the Boston Celtics, and they sent them through a lot of down stretches and droughts offensively. It was a really impressive defensive effort. I think this is going to be a fun team for the Knicks fans to root for all year long. All right, moving on to the mailbag. First question from Trayvon. Hey, Jason, I was curious what your thoughts on the Lakers potentially pushing Reeves back to the bench for Gabe Vincent, because I believe the second unit ran much better last year when you had Austin Reeves and Rui The combo makes more sense, even though I think Austin Reeves is better than D'Lo. I feel like it would remove some of those too many hands in the cookie jar stretches with ball handlers. And then second question, watching Cam Reddish navigate screens and play defense on Murray really makes me think if he could do that consistently as well, he forces teams to respect his shot more than, say, Vanderbilt. Could you see him being a breakout player? Great questions, Trevon. I did a whole rewatch of the Lakers game this morning, and so I want to spend some time to break that down. By the way, for those of you who are wondering why we didn't hit more games tonight in this jam-packed slate, I tried to watch as many games as possible, but it's like sensory overload, and there were so many different games that I wanted to watch tonight. And what I didn't want to do was watch games and give you guys half-assed analysis because I wasn't actually able to watch them that closely. So I'm going to hit several games from tonight's slate tomorrow morning in a separate show. So keep an eye on the feeds. We're going to do another show tomorrow that hits on some of the other debuts that we saw from around the league. But here's the deal. So as long as D'Angelo Russell is on the team, which we'll see when we get to the deadline, I think it is the right lineup to stick with Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, with Taurean Prince, LeBron James, and Antony Davis. I actually think Taurean Prince did a pretty good job, especially on rewatch, defending Jamal Murray. If you watch the game, they were running, and I put a clip of this on my Twitter feed that you guys can see about the kind of screening actions they were running Taurean Prince through. And they weren't offering any help. There was a play where like LeBron and AD were defending the two screeners, and they're both kind of sitting back by the elbow, and they're both just standing there watching as Taurean Prince is basically running figure eights around screens. And like it's just a really difficult job. Now, there's an advantage there, right? Because like you're going to force Jamal Murray to take a tough movement jump shot after doing a bunch of running himself. And by staying home elsewhere, you're forcing the Nuggets to stagnate and take difficult shots, right? But Jamal Murray is one of the top 15, 16 players in the world, and he's going to make those shots sometimes. And he did against Taurean Prince. But in general, I actually thought Taurean Prince did a decent job with what his job was in that defense, which was while everyone else stands around, and he's not getting a ton of help in terms of hedges and stuff on screens, he needs to be pursuing the ball constantly. And I thought he did a decent job. And then on the offensive end of the floor, you desperately need him in his shooting anyway. And he can actually kind of attack on these dribble handoffs and make plays. So like the starting lineup is fine. Now, again, like I do agree with the overall premise that you have too much complication in terms of shot or decision-making processes, right? Like, nowhere near enough Austin Reeves last night. Way too much D'Angelo Russell, right? Austin's a better player. He should get more of those touches. So like the way you answer that question is like eventually they need to simplify this process the same way the Nuggets do, right? If you watch the Denver Nuggets, it's like Jamal Murray's running the first action almost every single time. You know, Jokic is operating as the fulcrum in the two-man game almost every single time. If the first action gets shut down, they might flow into a KCP action, right? And then KCP will take his pull-up 17-footer that he takes or occasionally get downhill off of a ball screen. But like Jamal Murray's the guy and KCP is the second guy. It's a clear hierarchy in terms of the perimeter players, and Jokic is the fulcrum, right? Aaron Gordon's not running pick and rolls. Very rarely, right? Aaron Gordon's not getting a ton of like touches in the flow of the offense. It's like he's operating almost as a big man at that center position, basically cutting along the baseline, crashing the offensive glass, right? Vertical spacing. Michael Porter Jr. is primarily operating as a spot-up guy. It's a very clear hierarchy. And so, you need to kind of form the same thing with the Lakers. And so I tend to think that it makes more sense with the starters, especially, to have D'Angelo Russell basically just play off the ball. Have him just, again, in their read and react stuff, that doesn't mean he can't put the ball on the floor. But what I'm saying is like in terms of set actions, run him for Austin. Run him for LeBron. We're going to talk about LeBron in a minute, but he's a point guard too. He was the point guard when the Lakers won the title in 2020. Run the action for your primary ball handlers and have D'Angelo Russell's role simplified as an off-ball player. Then if there's a bench group that has D'Lo with LeBron and Christian Wood, then by all means, run some more stuff through D'Angelo Russell. But they do need to simplify their overall decision-making process throughout the game because right now, way too many guys are out of rhythm throughout the game. Kind of a similar issue to what we were talking about with the Celtics earlier, right? The Rui issue is interesting because he was really, really good last year for most of the end of the regular season and most of the playoffs. And he's been kind of a mixed bag throughout preseason and was pretty bad last night against the Nuggets, right? And I think there's a couple of specific reasons for that. He's coming in off the bench, and he's operating against a set defense a lot, which is not his strength. When he was succeeding in the playoffs, he was getting a lot of wide open catch and shoot threes, attacking closeouts, attacking in transition, and then occasionally attacking in the post in a mismatch situation, right? And those were like the only times he'd attack against a set defense. I think the answer there is, again, this is where you got to lean more on LeBron. So there was a quote that was going around on social media today, LeBron talking to Darvin Ham, Mike, somehow they caught it on a hot mic during the game, and he basically says, like, I can run point guard, right? And he kind of goes like, hey, give me Austin, give me Taurean Prince, and let me run point, is what he says. And the reason why he's saying that is, like, he's getting frustrated too. He literally said to Darvin Ham, he goes, I'm just floating around out there. And it's true. LeBron's just setting ball screens and floating around while lesser players like D'Angelo Russell are making decisions. And so I think simplifying that hierarchy of ball handling and getting the ball in LeBron James's hands more will make it so that he's in rhythm more throughout the game. Will make it so that the decision-making process is better throughout the game. Will make it so that Rui Hachimura gets more of those catch-and-shoot opportunities and closeout opportunities and mismatch opportunities that he needs to get. Because LeBron James is the guy that'll be like, oh, we just ran this action. Rui just set a pin down for Austin coming off the weak side. He got a switch with a guard. I'm going to dribble this over here. Everybody get the fuck out of the way. Let's throw the ball down to Rui on the right block and let him go to work. Like, LeBron is that guy that will operate like that in the half court. And that's why they need to organize their offense more around those lines. And then, again, like, Antony Davis had a rough second half last night. But, like, that's the kind of thing where if LeBron is more aggressive, or I should say more involved with the ball in his hands, he's going to identify what's going on with Antony Davis and get him some easier opportunities to try to break his slump. Antony Davis. The difference between his dribble attacks when he was kind of like with a live dribble versus when he had his back to the basket. That's what I want to kind of dive into for a second. So, like, Antony Davis had this like kind of mixed night where I thought he was amazing in the first half. I think he had like 17 points. Had a bunch of big rebounds. Obviously, he struggled to guard Jokic, but no one in the planet can guard Jokic. But there was like bad possessions and good possessions in there. There were these possessions where, like, he'd have Jokic on the left block, and he would make a hard move, like hit Jokic with his right shoulder, generate a little bit of separation, make a little right-handed push shot over the top. He had a nice like sweeping hook across the lane. He had some moves. When he made post moves against Nikola Jokic, he had success. When he stared Jokic in the face and just hit that classic in and out dribble and then dropped his shoulder and then screamed for a foul and just threw the ball up, he missed every single one of those. And so that's the difference. Like, and to me, it's really simple. Jokic is wide. He is a massive human being. And AD is attacking him from like 15 feet from the basket. So again, imagine a wide target, okay? And let's imagine you're the basket. If it's a wide target and I'm further away, I can go around you and make a move to the rim. But if we're 15 feet from the basket and Jokic is playing me at like 8 feet, I can't get around him and get to the rim. I'm going to have to take basically a shot going side to side parallel away from the rim. Because Jokic is wide, and unless you get him to lean one way, you're not going to cross him over and get a straight line drive to the basket. So when Antony Davis turned his back and made a post move, he scored. And when he tried to do his stupid foul grifty drop a shoulder thing, it wasn't working because Jokic doesn't even have to move. Okay, here comes another right-handed drive. Slide step, initiate a little bit of contact, make him throw the ball up. I had a lot of Lakers fans bitching and moaning in my on Twitter this morning about the officiating and Jokic like shoving AD on his drives and stuff like this. And again, I'm going to tell you the same thing I said to the Warriors fans. Like, blaming officiating is a loser mentality. Like, I watched those games and I watched the film today and I thought every single one of those was a good non-call. There was even one that he got in the first half that probably shouldn't have been a call as he was driving to his left side. Like again, in those situations, when you're two big guys driving at each other around the basket, there's going to be contact. And the referees are going to be allowing contact in those situations. So, like, again, I'd like to see AD, especially in over the course of a playoff series against Denver, potentially operate more as a post player against Jokic than as a face-up player when he's that close to the rim. It's a different story when he's operating from 24 feet and he's got space and he can beat Jokic off the dribble with room to get back to the basket, right? I thought some of that process stuff was interesting. Again, you look at it and it's like, okay, he made 6 isolation moves. I can't remember the exact total, but let's say he made 6 isolation moves against Jokic. It's easy to go like he scored on 3, missed on 3. That's half the time. No, like when he had good process, he scored every time. When he had bad process, he missed every time. And so when you can identify those things and make that adjustment, that's how you get it. So like the next time I score 5 out of 6 times, because as good as Jokic is, and I think he's bona fide the best player in the league, he can't fucking guard Antony Davis. He can't guard it. Antony Davis in the post is too athletic and can get an easy shot over the top of him. He just has to have the right offensive approach in those situations. With that second half and him going scoreless, I want to cut him a little bit of slack because this is something that happened all the time last year as well. And again, we can see the ebb and flow in Antony Davis's overall offensive production, and there's no doubt that that's a problem. And it's the difference between him being I think I had him as like the 6th or 7th best player in the world in my player rankings. It's the difference between him being that and being Jokic. Because if he was 30 points a game and the best defensive player in the world, that's a guy who could be in the conversation for being the best player in the world. But no, it's 30 and 17 in elite defense one night, and then it's 17 and 10 in elite defense the next night. But even if it's 17 points, it's still the elite defense. And again, even though he just can't guard Jokic, doesn't mean he's not a dominant defensive player. He was all over the place defensively in this game, made a lot of big plays, grabbed a lot of contested rebounds. Antony Davis's floor is incredibly high because of what he brings to the table as an athlete. But again, like, don't just look at point totals with Antony Davis. That's not the best indicator of his impact. As far as him going scoreless in the second half, the reason why this happens so frequently with the Lakers is that offensive hierarchy thing I'm talking about. Way too often, he'll go 7-8 possessions in a row without touching the ball because D'Lo's co-opting possessions. Because Austin Reeves, who's a great player, hasn't touched the ball in 7 or 8 possessions and wants to run in action himself, right? Because LeBron James, who's the 2nd or 3rd best player of all time, maybe even the 1st, he wants the ball because he hasn't had the ball all game. And so what ends up happening is it ends up being like tug of war within your own roster. And so by simplifying the offensive process, that could also go a long way to helping Antony Davis stay in rhythm. A couple of quick final notes. Over pursuing on the offensive glass, that was a huge problem last night. Like the Nuggets constantly kill the Lakers in transition. It's a huge problem with Antony Davis as well. This has been an issue with him nonstop in the Jokic matchup. You can literally see Jokic. He's always looking at Antony Davis at the end of every Laker offensive possession, and he can see when AD's not paying attention, and he sprints down the floor, gets a cross match, and he's either going to draw a double team and make a play out of it, catch and score over the top, or draw a double team, make a play out of it. Guy's going to miss a shot, and he's going to grab the offensive rebound over everybody and put it in. Like, a lot of the damage that Jokic does to this Lakers team in particular could be mitigated just by Antony Davis running the floor better. And that's not flopping, all those like weird straight line drives where he throws a bullshit shot up and then flops. Those are leading to transition opportunities. Over pursuing on the offensive glass, and that was an issue for the whole team, not just Antony Davis, but over pursuing on the offensive glass gives those offensive rebound opportunities. And don't let Jokic outrun you when you're a better athlete than him. Like we just talked about this earlier with the Nuggets or with the Mavericks. We saw Derek Lively sprinting up and down the floor all game long. And I'm not saying Antony Davis is going to be like a 20-year-old running up and down the floor, but he can do better than he's been doing, and it would go a long way to help them there. Offering smart help. On rewatch, there was a lot of bad defensive rotations from the Lakers with them getting out of position and over helping. There was a play where Gabe Vincent just decided he had Jokic with the ball and then just left him to the corner, and Jokic shot and made a 3. There was a cut from Christian Brown in the fourth quarter for a big left-handed layup over LeBron where Gabe Vincent was just not guarding anybody, standing at like the 3rd lane line up on the left side of the floor. Like, and you're like, what are we doing here, right? So like the Laker defense in general just wasn't very sharp. Again, the Nuggets, I'm keeping mixing up teams. The Nuggets are better than the Lakers, but the Lakers are capable of getting to that level. They just have to improve in a bunch of specific areas in the margins. Competing for long rebounds was another one. Every single a huge play in the second half was, I think it was Jokic misses a 3 from the top of the key. It goes off the back of the rim long, and D'Angelo Russell just fails to get the rebound. It ends up going to Jamal Murray in the corner for a 3. Like, it was a huge sequence in the game. immediately after that, Austin Reeves smokes a layup on one end, which leads to the Aaron Gordon alley-oop dunk on the other end. Like there were several of those like key sequences where it's like, if you flip those sequences in your favor, you have a chance to win that game instead of losing the way that you do. And so, the Nuggets are clearly better, but the Lakers are clearly right there. They just have to make the changes that they need to make to get over the top. And to that last mailbag question, Cam Reddish, I agree. I thought he played a solid game. He was good at the point of attack, navigated screens well, was contesting shots well. You could see his length and his athleticism being an advantage there. He secured some key contested rebounds as well. And he hit a couple of shots. He was a +7 on the night. And if he's going to play like that, I don't expect him to play like that consistently. But if he does, he's got a good chance to stay in the rotation. All right, a couple quick ones before we get out of here. The point guard position has changed dramatically over the past 10, 20 years with the rise in more positionless basketball. Yet the skill of a traditional point guard is extremely important in this age of the NBA basketball: passing, shooting, attack, defense, ball handling. Similarly to the center position, is the traditional small pass-first point guard position going the way of the dodo in your estimation? Kinda, yeah. And the main reason why is the concept of filling responsibilities that I talked about. You used to need a point guard to manage pace and to set your offense up. But nowadays, we are basically having our forwards do that if there are stars. Like when LeBron came into the league, it was literally him running along the baseline off of baseline screens, basically running floppy action all game long, right? Like, why the hell would you do that with LeBron now? Like, Luka Doncic comes into the league and he's running high pick and roll 10 times a quarter, right? So like that's the difference in overall approach nowadays versus the way it was then. And so now what you need out of the guard position is a guy who can defend on the perimeter, navigate screens, a guy who can legitimately score the ball in pick and roll, meaning like be a threat coming off of ball screens so that he can engage the screen defender to open up opportunities on the roll, and the ability to play off ball as a shooter. And so the Eric Snows of the world, they're not going to be in the league anymore. It's like we kind of saw this with Frank Ntilikina, right? Like you're not going to see the defensive minded, playmaking guard. And Frank Ntilikina is actually a terrible example of that. Don't even know why I went there. But you're not going to see the traditional floor general guard kind of running things anymore, because you just don't need that anymore when you're giving the ball to your best player regardless of position at this point. The point guard position will always exist, but you're going to need to be able to knock down pull-up jump shots. You're going to need to be able to guard multiple positions. And you're going to need to be able to play off the ball. That's just a necessity at the guard position right now. Next one. I have used your tips when it comes to the concept of mirroring moves and shot creation. It has been such a slow and painful process, but I've already started seeing progress, especially on defense, ironically. What other tips do you have that can help regular hoopers improve their overall game? I'm just going to give you one here. Hit the weight room. Talked all about that in the Jayson Tatum segment earlier tonight, but being strong on the basketball court will make you better on the basketball court. I can go longer on that, but we've already gone for 57 minutes, so we're going to go ahead and just leave it at that for right now. But again, I can't tell you how important the weight room is for basketball players. It's one of the biggest pieces of advice I give to young players as well. Last question from Bob. Hi, Jason. Great show as always. What do you think is the playoff ceiling this year for teams like the Thunder or Magic who are looking to make playoff play-in leaps this year? I don't think either of them are capable of winning the championship for the sole purpose, or for the sole reason that I've always said, that I've always gone to about young players, right? Like, if you are a team that relies on young basketball players, there's a ceiling to what you can do. You can beat veteran teams that are flawed, but you're eventually going to run into a very good veteran team, and they're going to be able to out-execute you. There is a level of desperation that you get from veteran teams that have experienced loss. Young teams haven't quite experienced the pain of loss enough. The just overall experience and the way it allows you to navigate late game situations. I like the Thunder. I like the Magic. I like the Pelicans. I just don't think they have that overall veteran presence to be able to win in those late series situations. One last thing, I had like 7 people ask since we launched the new channel, specifically ask, are we still with the volume? Yes, we're still with the volume. This is all about, we moved to the channel for a couple of reasons, just to help you guys simplify finding the show. And then 2, we're going to be using a lot of breakout clips this year. So for instance, we hit 3 games in this episode. It's going to be 1 clip, but then we're going to take the other 2 2 games and we're going to break them out as their own clips so that Celtics fans can find that easier, so that Knicks fans can find that easier, so that Lakers fans can find that film session easier, right? Tomorrow, if I break down 5 games, it'll be 1 episode, but we'll also have breakout clips for all 4 other teams. And so we didn't want to inundate the volume feed with 5 videos a day, right? So like that was a big part of the reason why we moved over. But to be clear, I'm still with the volume, going to be here at least for a couple more years and hopefully much longer. Love it here. Has nothing to do with that. We just wanted to move over to a new channel. All right, guys, that's all I have for tonight. I sincerely appreciate your guys' support. I will see you in the morning.